And I think that's been proved by everyone who's tried to run it since Janet. And then I think I have a special hatred for the shady lawyers who try to think of excuses, try to think of half-baked legal reasons why we shouldn't honour the Geneva Conventions, and had those passed on to men in the field who were under orders. But I want it clarified and combed out. I've been to Guantanamo and I've been to Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib was much worse under Saddam Hussein, I know. And there are many worse Cuban prisons on the other side of the line in Cuba, in Guantanamo. There's a political prison there too. But that doesn't excuse us.
I want to go back to, and this program is not meant to have any major theme, it's just to snapshots of Christopher Hitchens' life in preparation for the memoir.
Indeed.
We got this off of YouTube. You were on Scarborough Country a couple years ago at the nighttime show. And let's watch this and get your reaction.
Sweet.
Let's bring a little light to this, instead of all heat, let's bring a little light to this conversation
Light
and talk about trans.
Light only comes from heat.
Okay, thank you so much. Christopher, hold on. Guys, stop. God bless us all. Just stop and let's have a meaningful conversation instead of people talking on top of each other.
Don't invite me on and tell me to keep quiet.
Well, Christopher, why don't you let other people talk for a second, okay?
You invited me.
Okay, so anyway, Matt.
Not to listen to yours.
Okay, well, you know what, Christopher, I'll never make that mistake again.
Fair enough.
Matt, here's the question, okay? Merry Christmas and good night.
Your reaction to seeing yourself.
I think I left that one. I think I actually walked out of that one. I thought, look, either have me on, ask my view, or don't. But don't tell me what to say. Don't tell me what you think all the time. I actually corrected Mr. Scarborough. I think I improved him slightly as a host and as a talk show person. He made an obvious mistake. And you know, everyone gives themselves permission to behave absurdly when religion is mentioned. And he's just another one of those who do. By the way, when are we going to mention my new paperback version of my anti-God book? When are you going to put the title and everything on the screen? When are we going to say find bookstores everywhere?
We'll do it shortly. We're going to go back to '98, though. Okay. I want you to see. I
hadn't thought of it till now, but
one of a relative of yours. Let's watch this.
On C-SPAN's Washington Journal, the Hitchens brothers are back. One on the right coast, one on the left coast. We'll start here on the right coast with Peter Hitchens. What do you make of all of this?
Well, apart from all the laughing I've been doing, I'm beginning to feel that I've come out here perhaps a little too soon. It doesn't seem to be developing as fast as everyone in London thought it would.
It's filled me with a new respect for the American right. I'd up till now thought of them as rather an unpolished crew, the sort of people who tour the country calling for sexual abstinence among teenagers, for example. But now it seems that they can infiltrate a well-heeled liberal babe from Beverly Hills into the White House, get her in to see the president on this, just as he's come from church with his daughter, get her in to see Vernon Jordan just the day before she signs an affidavit, and get him to get her in to see Revlon just the day after she's signed on the dotted line. This is genius.
Talking about Monica Lewinsky, that's your brother Peter.
Yes, that was, well, apart from the tie, which it's better not to wear one than wear one like that. I think that's me at my best, actually. I mean, saying, okay, if you believe the liberal theory that Clinton was set up and that Monica Lewinsky was a stalker, that's the sort of stuff you're going to have to believe.
What's your relationship with your brother these days?
Not bad. He's, like all Hitchenses, a man of principle. Able to turn a phrase in print and on the air. The main difference that we have is that he's I wouldn't say born again, but he's a very decided fundamentalist Christian. Not of a fanatical sort, but of a very, very decided, very determined Episcopalian conservative sort. And with people like that, I can never be completely at ease. I just can't.
Now, he lives where?
He lives in Oxford, in England. But he commutes regularly. He lives between Oxford and London, where his media base is.
And what was his reaction when you found out that your mother was Jewish?
Well, we found out partly because our grandmother, my mother's mother, had outlived both my parents. The lady went to great age. and because Peter had married a Jewish wife. And when he took her to meet my grandmother said, "Oh, she's Jewish, isn't she?" And Peter sort of bridled a bit, and my grandmother, having no reason to keep the family secret any longer, said, "Well, I've got something to tell you." So it was Peter who brought me the news. I think I don't know why I say this, but I have a feeling I was just very slightly more pleased and interested than he was.
Why?
Well, among other things, he and his Jewish wife had both converted to Christianity. So it was a bit more turning over the luggage in their hold than it was in mine.
So your grandmother was Jewish?
My wife is Jewish also. So
but your grandmother's Jewish?
Yes.
And then that would make your mother Jewish, and then
yes, indeed. If you believe in Mosaic law, the law of return, and the Nuremberg laws, and I have problems with all these three laws, but yes, it's a matrilineal succession, and I'd certainly never, if I was asked if I was Jewish, whether the tone of voice was friendly or hostile, I would never say no. Would never be able to deny it, or want to.
We'll get closer to your book on this clip with Anderson Cooper when you appeared on there and talked about the death of Jerry Falwell. I don't know if you remember this or not.
I remember the event quite well, yeah.
Here it is.
Christopher, I'm not sure if you believe in heaven, but if you do you think Jerry Falwell is in it?
No, and I think it's a pity there isn't a hell for him to go to.
What is it about him that brings up such vitriol?
The empty life of this ugly little charlatan proves only one thing, that you can get away with the most extraordinary offenses to morality and to truth in this country if you'll just get yourself called reverend. Who would, even at your network, have invited on such a little toad to tell us that the attacks of September the 11th were the result of our sinfulness and were God's punishment if they hadn't got some kind of clerical qualification? People like that should be out in the street shouting and hollering with a cardboard sign and selling pencils from a cup. I don't know why I was so lenient on the little rat bag. He came on the television while the downtown Manhattan was still smoldering. There were cell phones screeching under the rubble, and people still alive. And he said, this is because we allowed divorce and homosexuality. The hell with him.
You know,
what I went on to say is that if he could have been given an enema, he could have been buried in a matchbox. And that's what I didn't get time to say on Mr. Cooper, but I got time to say later on. That's what I meant to say.
How much of what you say is calculated?
None. It's meant. In the sense of being, it's not done for effect, if that's what you mean.
Well, the audience
I don't say anything. No, it's a very good question. I ask myself a lot of the time because I'm often on the telly and on the radio, and I often have a book to sell, and I don't want to suspect myself of just doing things for effect. If I ever go further than I mean to, and I say something that is cheap or overstated, I always will try and come back and correct myself and say, okay, maybe that was. I don't do things just for you're pursing your lips, Mr. Knight.
No, I actually wanted to.
I like to find a gift of phrase if I can and try and make it stick, make it memorable.
I really wanted to ask you though, when there was an occasion where you and someone else really were. The word mad doesn't describe it, but you were furious with one another, or you really had a confrontation that was personal and serious and deep.
On the air,
with anybody, anyway, just in life. People that watch television never know how much of it's a gimmick.
Exactly, and that's where one wants to suspect one's own motives. This will seem odd, but I'll answer it like this. I'm reviewing a book at present of essays by Henry Fairley. Perhaps you remember him. Quite good English-born essayist, often in the New Republic, especially in the 80s, 90s. He was a great writer and a great polemicist, but I used to think that sometimes he would feign his anger. He would think, I need to get a piece, I need to get paid, I need to get an article done. He would invent a subject to be annoyed about, and I just think that will always show. So I suppose I have to submit myself, in answering your question, not to my own verdict that you're inviting, but to the safekeeping of the good taste of the audience. If and people who read me and watch me, if they think I'm doing this because I just want to make a splash, well, they're entitled to think that, and I would obviously suffer a decline in respect. I don't think, in fact, I give off the impression that I do this for effect.
But back to the other part of the question, though, what's the biggest, most serious feud you've had with any individual? And that was real. I mean, that they weren't phony and you weren't phony, and it was...
I guess it would be with Henry Kissinger and his defenders, what I can call to mind of the recent past. I wrote a book saying that I thought he should be arrested and put on trial, and that if he was, he'd be convicted.